I'm going to talk you through the process of making your own bone broth. In this particular case, I'm going to use chicken, but you could use fish, beef, turkey, duck, pigeon, I don't know, any of those sort of things. You use your imagination. Right, once your chicken has cooled down slightly but is still warm, this is going to be the best time to separate the meat from everything else you can see there on the right. Now you're going to want a good water filter, and by that I mean a filter that will take out chlorine and fluoride and heavy metals. They may spoil the taste slightly, and you're not really going to be wanting to drink 5 or 6 litres of some horrid tap water anyway. So try and filter that stuff out. Stage 1, which is soaking the bones. This is an optional stage. If you don't have the time, you can give this a miss because it does take overnight. But the reason why we're doing this is because it starts to pull the nutrients and the flavour out of the bones. You do need to add an acidic component to do this though, and here I'm using Bragg's apple cider vinegar, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. You could use half a lemon or half a glass of wine. I know what you might be thinking. That looks absolutely disgusting, doesn't it? I mean, you got chicken bones floating around in cold water with vinegar. It doesn't exactly look appetising, does it? But believe me, be patient because you're going to enjoy the outcome. So once that's been soaking overnight, the next day, get it in your slow cooker, whack the heat up so you really get it bubbling, and then just add whatever vegetables you've got lying about. Right, here I've got onions and carrots of course, but you can't see these old manky things here that would probably I'll just chuck in the bin. But now I purposely save them and I put them in my broth because you know what, they're going to add some flavour and texture to that broth, and they may even add some little nutrients that's left in those anyway. You could even use the heart of cabbage, the bit that you chuck away. You could use the stalks of your broccoli, the end bits you cut off, any loose leaves, and also the stalks of cauliflower. And cauliflowers come with those green leaves on the outside. Peel all those off and stick those in your broth as well. Anything that you can get together, chuck it in your broth. It's going to all help with the substance and taste of that broth and make it even better. Chuck all that in. Now, if you want to flavour or salt your broth, then please use something like a sea salt. Don't use table salt, it's complete and utter rubbish, it's just chemicals. Right, don't stick chemicals in your broth. This is meant to be a really great broth here, don't spoil it with that. Or, what you could do is use something like seaweed. The great thing is it adds that saltiness to it, but it also tops up even more the nutrients. So the iodine, the potassium and calcium, things like that, it tops those up. So your broth is going to be even more nutritious if you use that. So you're going to want to cook your broth for about 24 to 48 hours, maybe even longer. I've cooked it for 3 or 4 days before. The whole house has stunk of broth. People complaining about the smell, they don't really know what it is, but I don't care because I love broth, and they're just going to have to suffer. They're going to have to suffer for me liking broth. So don't worry about your neighbours. They can do whatever they want, but cook it for 6 or 7 days if you want. Make it a perpetual broth. You keep dipping in it, adding to it. Keep it going. That's the whole part of actually enjoying it. As you're cooking it, you'll get to flavour it, taste it, or taste the flavour at different stages. So experiment. Stage 2, the cooking. This broth has been on for about 2 days now. You can see floating on the top the fats, gelatin from the bones, cartilage and skin. The vegetables are now very soft, and you can tell by the colour that it's the perfect time to now have a taste to see what you think. Here you can see a close-up of some cooled chicken broth. That is the gelatin that's seeped into the liquid, so it's a really good sign, and it's, you want as much of this as possible to give the chicken broth a really nice taste and texture.
I've taken out 3 bones at the 2.5 day mark just to show you how some bones, this is a turkey bone, can hold on actually to the marrow still, so they might actually need a little bit more time, whereas this one has completely dissolved the marrow into the broth. The last one is a much softer chicken bone. These do tend to break down a little bit easier, they're a little less durable than the turkey bones, which I've found to be a bit harder. So the broth is now finished and ready to strain. This has been cooking for around the 3 day mark. I'm now going to use a normal sort of pasta strainer into a separate saucepan. Here you can see I've ended up with about 1.5 litres of broth. Here's a glass of the final broth. You can see by the colour, the amount of gelatin and fat floating on the top, the difference between this and the sample you saw earlier, which was cooked for 2 days. So that 1 day really has made a difference. This is all part of the learning experience and something that you'll be able to tweak as you go. All that's left to do now is to store it in glass jars and put it in the fridge, and try if you can to use this within 7 to 10 days. This is a different batch, so you can see by the colour of it that you're going to get varied results depending on what you add and how long you cook it.